HIPAA insurance and insurance-based billing. Today, we're going to be taking a look at both of these topics and looking at some examples of these in the real world. We're going to look at just overall kind of a HIPAA e-commerce, HIPAA pharmacy type of environment, as well as a medical billing environment. And then we're also going to look at a mobile application that has kind of an omni-channel capability to bring this data in, as well as some other specific use cases for getting this insurance information and then applying it to the user's record and taking care of the billing associated with that. So that's going to be integrations, looking into some of the back office side of things as well. Finally, we'll wrap up by giving a brief review of some of the security and privacy aspects of this. And with that said, let's get started. Okay, so to get things started, we're going to take a look at a really standard kind of presentation model for showing this different insurance information. Now, one of the things that we want to point out is some folks will have primary, secondary, and then liability insurance, possibly other forms of insurance coverage. So you want to ask yourself, do you have the ability and the need to provide or kind of allow the user to be able to input this information? And what all do you want to collect? Now, you'll hear us talking about this a lot with HIPAA, but we don't want to collect anything that we don't need to, so that we're really respecting and honoring the user's privacy per the privacy rule, of course. Now, whenever the user comes into their dashboard, in this particular case, you can see that they can input their Medicaid number, their Medicare number, and their state. So they can just put that in right away. They also have the ability to provide us with insurance, and they can go in and specify relationship to the policy holder. So some of this detail is really, really important so that we can run APIs and go ahead and call out to those insurance providers and get access and make sure that there's coverage there. So whenever the user is actually attempting to make a payment, we can run these API calls and see if they actually have coverage for what we're trying to bill them for. Now, this isn't always perfect, so sometimes this does need to go to a back office system, an EMR, EHR, or other medical billing software that's internal. And this is something that we can also do. So we can pump this data back securely to an internal system that your team can use for further billing attempts. Now, this set of screens also includes the ability to go into a secondary, which is just kind of a standard presentation, and a liability insurance provider. Now, one of the things that you'll see in general is that whenever we are allowing the user to provide their insurance information, we're also going to want to provide them with some kind of expectations, some type of detail, any type of nuance that's going to pertain. And so here you can see we're actually asking them to provide us with, in the case of a liability, the date of an accident, the adjuster's information, and we're going to actually get in touch with them potentially via this information. So this, again, can be really, really helpful for the user to provide them with self-service and mostly guide their expectations. Whenever you're having them put in insurance information, you want to make sure that the user understands what exactly we're going to do with that information and what we can and can't get access to be able to attempt to resolve any kind of billing issues. A lot of times with insurance, there can be challenges with getting the billing to process, and we want the user to understand what that's going to mean. If we can't resolve the billing, how are they going to need to get involved, and what's their liability, if you will, to be able to follow up and help get the insurance company to pay or directly pay for it themselves if insurance isn't going to pay for it. Okay, let's take a look at a few other examples now. Okay, so in this example, we have a simple mobile application that's going to essentially allow the user to omni-channel access this information, both on their website portal, but also here in this case through the mobile application. Now, the user can do a lot of different things with this mobile application, as you can see, but they can, in addition to everything else, they can go in and access their billing information. Depending on the use case, they can go in and modify their insurance information as well. Now, this particular mobile application has a lot of capabilities, and it integrates to the EMR system that the different locations, a multi-location covered entity is utilizing. It ties back to those entities in different locations via FHIR. So it's using a FHIR set of integration endpoints with a integration platform that is designed to enable HIPAA compliant integration between this mobile application and the on-premise locations and the overall EMR system that they're using. Now, this is a really awesome way to go if you need to leverage a mobile application. Let's take a look at some other examples where the user is going into a desktop application as well. Okay, so here you can see that the user is accessing their profile. So earlier we were taking a look at the insurance information in a mobile application and within a kind of insurance section of their profile. Now we're just looking at their general profile, and they can provide their information and they can update it here within their profile. Finally, we want to show that we can also ask for the billing, the insurance information during the checkout phase. So whenever the user is in the checkout phase, they can select, as opposed to a credit card, they can select a insurance provider, and they can even do things like providing a backup in case their insurance doesn't cover everything. They can provide their credit card information and an authorization that they understand if their billing information through their insurance company isn't working, that they are going to go ahead and pay for the full amount with their own billing information. Now, this just kind of depends on your business logic that you want to apply to your Hipaa platform. And overall, we're going to just kind of hit on a few topics on this, as well as the security and privacy next. Okay, so just to wrap this up, we want to say thanks for watching this video. One of the big things that we see for our clients is they're definitely interacting with medical billing information after the fact. They're not necessarily going to benefit upfront if they don't have access to API integrations or some form of interaction where they're going to be able to talk to Medicare, Medicaid, or the insurance companies with the user's information. Now, there are some extremely powerful APIs that we can tie into to help you to enable this self-service for your users and allow them to put their information in, get a response back that's a reasonable response, and then provide an expectation to the user based on the response we get. Sometimes the information is entered wrong. Sometimes they aren't providing all of the information. Sometimes they just aren't covered. And this can really influence how the user is going to interact with us. So we want to make sure that we, wherever possible, are enabling a self-service capability, and we're giving the user access to this information so they can adjust on the fly. Now, the other big thing that we want to look at is security and privacy. Now, we have a lot of detailed videos that cover security and privacy. We certainly recommend going into the weeds on those. From an insurance perspective, this is a really sensitive topic, and we want to make sure you're thinking about this. Do you need to gather all of the information that you're gathering? If you do, no problem. You're going to want to make sure that the information is restricted to just those roles in your organization that need to access it. You're also going to want to make sure that there's a multi-factor authentication and effectively a zero trust environment for your overall data storage and data handling of this PHI information. We also strongly recommend that you go ahead and think through what you're going to do if the user asks you to remove their data. This is per the privacy rule. And if they ask you to export it, are you going to reasonably comply with those requests? And how are you going to reply? And how are you going to physically do that? If you don't have a mechanism in place to comply with Hipaa, we recommend that you think about that and project forward 3 to 5 years out and really kind of put a plan in place for some of the nuances that are going to happen as you grow. If you're not already working with a Hipaa-focused provider, a development team that focuses on Hipaa all the time, we certainly welcome you to reach out to our team. We provide a complimentary discovery process. This is like going through the start of a planning on your project. We do it complimentary, and we actually have a business analyst meet with your team, and we provide detailed notes and plans and diagrams for your project that you can keep for free. We offer you the ability to kind of tap our brains and tap all of our decades of combined knowledge in the Hipaa space. Now, if there's a great fit for us to work together, we'll provide you with some options for how we might proceed together. If not, we will help you find a great path that we think would be reasonable for you to pursue so that you can be Hipaa compliant with your insurance and insurance billing. We hope that you watched all the way to the end and really enjoyed what we shared. If so, if you would, hit the like. And if you would like to see more videos like this, feel free to hit subscribe, and we will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.